the Giants.
Welcome to Waking the Giant. I'm your humble host and servant, Nat Turner, and tonight we're going to discuss Elections 101. Welcome back to Waking the Giant. As always, I'm your humble host and servant, Nat Turner, here with my sidekick and my guy, JB. And tonight we're going to discuss Elections 101. And what we're discussing in Elections 101 is actually what it means to participate in local elections. So once every 4 years, I know everybody comes around and they want to vote, in the once every 4 year elections. That's known as the national election, right? The funny thing is, there's only one candidate who's a national candidate on that ticket, and that would be the president. Everybody else is local or state on that ticket. So politics is always local. I was taught this through Operation Proclamation, through Brother Khalid Bey, who's the councilman up in Syracuse, and Brother Sharif Anna Bey, who's one of the smartest dudes that I ever met. And I always have to say that on every video that I'm on. But nevertheless, they taught us the importance of local elections and how local elections work. Well, we want to explain to y'all what elections are. Elections are a struggle for control of the state apparatus by the contending forces in the ruling class. So what this means is that elections is a struggle to control state funds, representative institutions, and infrastructure. And who wants that control? The contending forces of the ruling class. So we're talking about corporations and so on. Capitalism is not a homogeneous force, okay? It has contending interests. For example, manufacturing, finance, real estate, technology. They're all fighting one another to get control of the state apparatus. Why? Because they can then control what's known as public policy. If they control public policy, that's a stick up to poor and middle class people, because it guarantees, it mandates, it secures, it assures their ability to make profits hand over fist. And they legalize it. So they're legalizing the transfer of wealth. That's exactly what's going on. So that's the first thing I wanted you to understand about elections, of exactly what elections are. Okay? On top of that, I wanted you to know that there's a huge misconception about how it works. I hear people all the time say, "Oh, I'm voting for this person because I know he's going to win. He got the shot to win." That's not how poor people should think about this. This is not about winning or losing necessarily. This is about winning power. It's not about winning an election. It's about winning power. Because you got to think about this. The struggle is there to win. If we can run an election and have a person that runs and he receives more votes and he'll get in office and do nothing. Do nothing. Not even necessarily because he wanted to do nothing, but it could be because he's in there with the whole group and he's ineffective completely. Perfect example.
AOC.
There you go. AOC. I mean, her whole lifeline was to run on Medicare for all and a universal health care and all of this. But when it was time to force that vote, when it was time for her to face Nancy Pelosi and put the progressives together in the Congress, all you needed was 9, 10, or 11 of them
Squad
to say, "Yo, I'm not voting for Nancy." Threaten her with it. Tell her, "Listen, we won't vote for you to be speaker unless you lay the vote on the floor." They weren't even willing to do it. They weren't willing to do it. So it lets us know that we can't trust somebody that's winning an election, whether progressive or not. What we have to do is build power. And how is power built? Power is built by taking 1 to 3, so respectively, if your district has 5,000 to 10,000 people, it only takes 1%. It only takes 1%. So you could actually run with anywhere between 1 to 500 people and create this organizational capacity that's built around food, clothing, shelter, employment. If you can do that, if you can build 1 to 300 people around that organizational capacity, you won power. You won power. If you can maintain it, that's called building a base. And I know that a lot of people.
I mean, are you saying this in the traditional two-party system, or are you saying this with we got to change the two-party system? We'll have multiple parties. Then that will be more of a realistic.
I get your question, and that's an excellent question,
thing
right?
To come about. Right? I can't see that happening with the two-party system.
It already happened. Let me explain to you how it already happened, right? Malcolm X taught this back in the 60s. Malcolm X told you that poor people will be the deciding vote in between the two major parties. And sure enough, what happened this year? What happened in the national election? Poor people. Everybody says, oh, it's more white people than black people. It don't matter. White people don't all vote alike. They're not a monolith. 56%, almost 60% voted for Trump. almost 40% voted for Biden. Who did Biden need to get him over the hill? That's what counts. When you're watching a basketball game, you can have some great players on both sides. If the score is 80-80, it's the dude who hit that last three-pointer that makes the difference in the game. That's how the game works. So even in this two-party system, what we call a two-party, which we know is nothing more than a duopoly, but even in this two-party system, it works the same exact way. Now, on the other end, we do need more parties. We need a labor party. We need a healthcare party. We need all different facets of a party. But nevertheless, it does work that way. So again, if you can get 1% of your community to stand around these issues and you can maintain them, I don't care if you so-called lost the election. If you could get them to stand behind these issues and you build organizational capacity around it, bro, you won the power. I bet you they won't deny you next election. I bet you the second election that comes around, you'll be the one that they come to. And they're going to be running candidates that they know have to run on your agenda. This is how it works. Too many times people are looking at the numbers and how many people that's not how elections work. You got to build power. Elections, again, is a struggle to control the state apparatus by the ruling elite. That's what it is. And the only way for us to break through is to break through their discontent with one another. That's why certain people from Wall Street support Democrats, certain people from Wall Street support Republicans. It's us in between with our demands that says, listen, we won't give you our vote unless A, B, C, and D. And I bet you $5.
But hasn't that been the traditional way of how it's been going? They don't do what we... AOC and them ran on universal health care.
Right.
And then when it was time to make that vote or demand, force the vote for Nancy and them and say, look, we're not going to do what you want to do unless you listen to us and address universal health care. Like, because obviously they ain't got 5 minutes to talk about stuff that goes, they got 3 days, 4 days to talk about Donald Trump.
Right.
And impeach Donald Trump.
Oh, my God.
And millions of taxpaying dollars to try to prosecute him. Mm-hmm. Not to say, I'm a Trump fan, but... Right. They ain't got 5 minutes to talk about real things that real affects poor people, brown people, lower class people. You know what I mean?
No, it's an excellent question. Listen, to your question, this is why I'm also saying that local municipal elections are way more effective, right? So for example, although AOC is a local congresswoman, she represents the larger branch of the House, right? I'm talking about trustees and councilmen in your local district, okay? People who can pass an ordinance that will affect you in the next 5 minutes. Perfect example, Brother Khalid Bey, who chairs the Economic Council up in Syracuse. What he did was, because if you want to do investment, if you're Walmart, if you're some big company and you want to be able to put your company in Syracuse, you have to come see him and sit with him. So because he's the chair, he tells them, listen, all right, you want to bring your company here? Well, this is the pool of people that you have to choose from first. What did he do? Effectively create an ordinance to affect employment to make sure that Syracuse citizens and constituents are the first chosen for the job. That's power. That is power, my friends, my brothers and sisters.
How do you hold AOC or these people accountable?
Beautiful. The way you do it is by maintaining the base. Remember,
without Duck Dynasty.
Remember, the power is not in the election or the person that you're trying to get elected. The power is in the base of people in the organizational capacity around the issues. You have to maintain these people around the issues. When you do that, it grows and gets bigger and stronger. And now people are like ain't nobody getting in unless they support Medicare for all. Ain't nobody getting in, yada, yada, yada. And here's the other thing, a block vote, right? I know where you're going with this. A block vote. What a block vote ensures is that we all vote one way, right? If we all vote one way, it's a lot easier to do something I know y'all not familiar with, recusal. You can recuse the candidate. You can pull them back out of office. I bet you didn't know that, did you?
That's what they're trying to do with Governor Newsom in California.
There you go. You can pull them back out of office.
I'm like, what do you mean?
Yeah, no, you can pull them back. This is the same thing that happened with Scott Walker back in, I think, 2016. Governor Scott Walker of, oh my God, I almost want to say Michigan. One of you guys are going to correct me on here. Was it Wisconsin but it was Governor Scott Walker. Anyway, he had to go through a second electoral process. Why? Because this is when the Wisconsins or whoever it was raided the Capitol building because he wanted to destroy unions. I don't know if people remember that because the news does a shady job at actually showing these things. But this is local politics in action right here. And when you have a block voting is part of local politics, where everyone joins together and votes one way. So when we say vote one way, what it means is that we find a candidate, we find an agenda that's addressing at least 5 out of 10 of our issues. If it addresses 5 out of 10 of our issues, we move forward with it. The rest we can work on later, but let's get the first 5 issues together. Again, food, clothing, shelter, employment. Let's get those issues together first. When we do that and we're all on the same sheet, we're all on the same team, if that candidate doesn't get to work in the first 5 days, we can then put petition to recuse the candidate and get them the hell out of there. And if we hang that over their head, as we should, because we're not there to like these people. They're not our friends, okay? And not your friend, and not your cousin, and not your family member, and not your girlfriends. These people are there to work for you. They're public servants. They're there to serve the public, okay? That's another thing. We romanticize these candidates way too much. Local voting. A local ordinance can change your life in the next 5 minutes, as opposed to a president's bill, which will take 5 years to affect your life. Look at Obamacare. It didn't trickle down to some people yet. It was passed, 14 or 20, whatever? Like, let's be honest about these things. Another thing with local politics, excuse me, guys. Another thing with local politics is the things that it can affect in your neighborhood. Land trust. With a community, where your local municipal government holds on the land on behalf of the community, where they could develop, or they serve as a fiduciary or a steward, meaning an agent. They serve as an agent for affordable housing, community gardens, civic buildings, commercial assets, on behalf of you. Worker-owned corporations. Instead of letting corporations just sell and move out of your neighborhood and everybody goes broke and everybody gets foreclosed upon, you can tell your local government, no way. We're going to buy that corporation, and every employee in this place is going to own a share of the corporation. Who better than the people who was working there from the beginning? You can control who your CEO is. You can control who your managing board is. You can control how much your CEO makes. When the company makes big profits, because it already has a client base as a company that was there, when a company makes good profit, you share in the profit, as opposed to just sharing in a weekly check. Think about this. These are things that can be done locally. You don't need a president to do this for you.
When you do have profit sharing it does incentivize you to
do better.
Yeah, have pride in your job.
Pride in your job.
Things,
you're an owner.
Yeah, you're an owner.
You're an owner, of course. It's almost like stocks. When you own shares in a company, especially if you own a significant amount of shares.
On a downward path and trying to sabotage and rob you from that, labor unions and all these things that, since the 1940s, I want to say, right after the Great New Deal and all these things, they had to get rid of that because they knew that's power for the people.
No. Absolutely. But they didn't. You can't get rid of worker-owned corporations. You have the ability to do it. They got rid of the idea so that people don't. Most people who are watching me right now, they've never heard of worker-owned corporations. A good portion of you have, but the majority of people who are looking at this right now have never heard of it. They don't know it exists. They don't know that Spain damn near exists off of this shit right here. Worker-owned corporations, the country of Spain. Now let's couple that. Like I just said, when corporations or a company leaves, almost like what they did in Puerto Rico, right? Where they leave, and what you do is you leave this gaping hole because all the workers who were skilled to work there and things of this nature, they don't have a job anymore. They begin to get foreclosed on. Foreclosed was huge as a result of the banking crisis. But here's another thing how you can be helped locally. You don't need a president for it. Your mayor, whose budget is created by those local trustees and councilmen who I was just saying, Your mayor, if he has a foreclosure problem in his village, county, district, what he could do is declare eminent domain. Eminent domain is not just for Walmart, where they come buy your house up for on the cheap so they could put a Walmart there. No. Eminent domain could be used for me and you. That's the original purpose of it. What happens is the government could take public land at a market price. So if your mortgages are owned by J.P. Morgan and the rest of these shysters, City Hedge Fund and the rest of these shysters.
Yeah, but how do you fight that when J.P. Morgan and the lobbyists
let me
money
explain.
is so long?
It doesn't matter how long their money is. This is law. This is codified law, eminent domain. How did J.P. Morgan get their shop where they are? They got their shop there 9 times out of 10 because of eminent domain. They had to move houses and shit out the way so they could put a Chase there, so they could put a Walmart there. It's the same way that if you were foreclosed upon, what your local government could do is create a plan. If they got a foreclosure problem in their neighborhood, they can create a plan, declare eminent domain, buy out those foreclosures at market price from those banks. I don't give a shit if the banks are underwater. They can buy out those foreclosures at market price, and what they could do is transfer all of these mortgages at the new market value over to your local community bank.
All right, that's where it's got to start.
Your community bank. And now your whole mortgage has been reorganized at the market value rate where you can afford it now. We're talking about a complete different mortgage. I'm just giving an ideas of the power that exists locally. And people just keep getting this misconception about the president, or even the senator. Forget that senator. Talk to your state senator, your local state senator. Your local state senator has the ability to create employment. Your local trustee, your local councilman has the ability to create good paying jobs for you. Otherwise, their ass shouldn't be there. That's what they're there for, to create the strategy. If they're not doing that, then they shouldn't be there. Another thing, we said public banks, but community schooling, participatory budgeting. That's another thing. Community schooling we'll get to in a whole nother, because that's some Black Panther shit right there, community schooling. But nevertheless, we'll get back to that. Participatory budgeting. Participatory budgeting means that you create these little civic engagement organizations, or what's known as oversight committees, right? You create oversight committees. Say you got 5 within your town. Different oversight committees for different things. What they all do is they come together to create one larger committee, and what that committee can do is now hijack the budget that the town gets, all right, that the state allocates to the town. They can hijack up to 25% of that budget for projects that they want done within their neighborhood. You need a new library? We got it. You need a new supermarket? Got it. Create a community supermarket? Got it. We got it. This is how it works. And think about all the land from the land trust that are on the community rolls right now that need to be given out. See, nobody's being strategic and thinking about this shit the way it can honestly be done.
I believe all that can be done, and I know what you're saying and the laws that are there to do, but I don't believe that. I believe the money's so long and the corruption is so far deep that it can't go back to that.
No.
How do you do it when Walmart could put in $2 billion and put or the oversight? You said there's an oversight committee.
Oversight committee.
What is the difference? Yeah, Janet Yellen's supposed to be the oversight for Wall Street.
Again, what are you doing? You're looking at a national frame.
She's not voted in.
Well, listen how it works. How do they keep the corruption going with a Janet Yellen? Because this is like a couple of things. Well, how do they keep the corruption going? Of course, they get the secretary. They appoint a secretary of the Treasury Department who takes money from Wall Street already. So that's how you keep the corruption going. But when we break it down, too local, right? We're talking about trustees and councilmen who live up the street from you.
Right.
They live up the street from you.
But that doesn't mean they're not getting a yellow envelope on their desk.
Hold on. What it does ensure that if you have power and you got the people who built around, like I said, organizational capacity, you have the people built around it, they cannot cheat the system, brother. You can stay on top of that. No. You own it. You own the power. They know that you have the power to sway the whole election. That's why I want to start small. You have the power to sway it. And that's what counts. That's why it works so much better locally. You have to build out locally, not from the top down.
Yeah.
The trickle down shit don't work. You're right. There's too much corruption. Yeah. It's too seeded. But if you build from the bottom up, it's a different ball game altogether. all together. With that being said, me and JB, we're going to finish this conversation right here. But make sure that you guys like, share, and subscribe. And we're just trying to give you some ideas about different ways you can effectuate the process when it comes to elections. You have to understand this process. You have to understand what can be done. There has to be imagination and creativity. And everything I named, everything I said, from land trusts to worker-owned corporations to participatory budgeting to community banking, everything I said is realistic. You can look it up. There's communities that started it and that started doing it. You can look all of this stuff up.
The Giants.